Welcome to episode 8 of Politically Charged. I'm Jack Berland, and I intro every episode just like this. This week, I'm joined by no one because I'm still rolling solo, though I think that's probably going to change in the next couple weeks. I got a couple fun guests lined up. I just need to coordinate schedules, so be sure to not miss that. Big news this week. Last week was the politicallycharged.us website. This week, Instagram, taking over everything. Just search Politically Charged, you'll find it. I think I'm going to use it as a way to give out kind of morning updates on what's going on in the political world. So go ahead, hit that with a follow. Like I just said, politicallycharged.us, my website, our website, was launched last week. Made a couple new updates to that, which I'll probably touch on at the end of the episode. Another new thing in the works right now is a Facebook page, though Facebook is doing everything they possibly can to prevent me from making it. Shout out, Mark. This week I talk everything from the G-20 to nuclear North Korea. Completely butchered that. I meant to say North Korea's intercontinental ballistic missile launch. Can't believe I got all the way through that. And finally, finishing up with a little local flavor. Collier County is about to make a major decision on medical marijuana. So I'll share my thoughts on that and how it kind of applies to the broader discussion surrounding marijuana on a federal level. So I'll keep everybody up to date with the latest on that. And other than that, this is going to be a great show. I'm actually really excited for this show. I've got a lot of notes, a lot of stuff to get through this week. It was very busy. So go ahead, sit back, relax, and let's go. Another beautiful week in the Trump Family Presidency. This week, the Trump family circus took their talents to the G-20 in Hamburg, Germany, where Trump started out his latest international trip with a presser, something every president does, but not every president struggles with so much. I don't understand how one man can go on such a crazy up and down, mostly down, but up and down trip through an international congregation of world leaders. But back to the topic at hand, the Trump presser to start the G20, he started with attacking NBC because they were attacking him even though he made them a fortune, which raises the question, I've heard this on other podcasts, did he expect to get favorable coverage just because he was on The Apprentice for however many years? Do we really believe that Donald Trump fostered such great relationships that it would affect how a major media outlet covers him? Why am I talking like this? I have no idea. In the same presser, he continued his war on the media, calling CNN and others fake news, something that Vladimir Putin launched onto, obviously a friend of the free press everywhere. He really seemed to take aim at CNN's actions towards the person that came up with the meme of him body slamming CNN. Now, this whole situation is kind of ridiculous. Like I said on the episode last week, which I recorded right after he had dropped the meme, I thought the meme itself was hilarious. Granted, at the time, it hadn't come out. The information about the guy who came up with it hadn't come out yet, so I didn't know that, which makes it less funny. But, I mean, it's still not something I want from my president. Well, president of the United States, maybe student council president. It'd be pretty funny. But the meme itself is still funny. But, dude, Trump, Mr. President, this would not even be a topic had you had maybe somebody on your paid communication staff take a look at this meme, or maybe give them a day to kind of trace it back to its origins, or maybe, just maybe, taking 2 seconds to self-edit and think, hey, you know what? Everybody knows I hate CNN. Everybody knows I hate fake news. Is this meme really gonna change anything other than distract from other failings of my administration? Which now, actually, when I think about it like that, I see why even if he did self-edit, he went ahead and tweeted it. The presser continued on from there to the topic of Russia, something Trump has historically handled extremely well. Asked if Russia meddled in the election, Trump responded strongly, yes. But maybe other countries too. No. He followed that up by saying that Obama had not done enough to retaliate for Russia's alleged meddling in the election. This kind of served as a launching pad into a incoherent and mostly contradictory couple minutes on really everything involving Russia. I don't understand how you can, in the same 20-minute span, rip your predecessor for not doing more to retaliate, but then also call into question whether there was anything to retaliate to. So, just a normal Trump presser. Nothing really made sense. Just a couple tidbits for the left to pick up on and then the right to vehemently defend. I'm starting to think Trump himself, actual Donald J. Trump, not Jr., just Donald J. Trump, the President of the United States, in no way colluded with the Russians. I'm starting to think that he's just really bad at diplomacy, or that he has some extremely screwed up version of diplomacy as the ideal goal for him. Because it seems like he's going out of his way to not accuse Russia, or not strongly accuse Russia of meddling in the election. Maybe, hopefully, the optimist in me thinks it's because he's trying to foster better relations, maybe extract some concessions out of them down the road. Meddling in our elections is essentially a cyber attack on the United States and should be treated as such. That's where I stand. But I can see how somebody with Trump's screwed up version of diplomacy in his head would think, I'll just play this down, maybe get something later. Which I totally do not agree with. That is ridiculous. But, par for the course. And then he can't get his people on the same page. His own UN ambassador, Nikki Haley, former governor of South Carolina, praying to God that I got that right, says everyone knows that Russia meddled in our election. I hate to break it to you. Evidently not everyone knows. But you could also write this off as Nikki Haley doing Nikki Haley things, because on 4th of July, she had a very ill-advised tweet about North Korea as they were launching, or after they had launched, their ICBM as a display of force, or as they called it, a gift for our 4th of July holiday. She tweeted something along the lines of, "Have to work on 4th of July. Thanks, North Korea." Well, Nikki, I hate to be the one to point this out to you, because I'm sure you'll hear this. I'm sure you listen every week. Thank you very much for doing so. But huge international crisis like North Korea developing a intercontinental ballistic missile kind of falls under your jurisdiction. That's maybe something you should pay attention to. And then, since you're using this as a platform to launch your political career, maybe not complain about. Maybe tweet something about how the United States and our allies will in no way accept this, and we will work together to defeat North Korea and erase the nuclear threat. That's just, something off the top of my head as somebody still in college, and I think that would have done infinitely better. Friday, Trump met with Putin. Kind of previewed this last week. I said, I'm sure something big will come out of this, a meme, a bizarre Trump handshake. A bizarre Trump handshake there was not, but there was a lack of a Trump handshake, which many are pointing out could mean Trump felt himself to be the beta in that situation. The meeting with Putin went basically as well as you'd think, meaning that there was a huge to-do afterwards. He said, she said. The meeting was scheduled for 30 minutes originally, but it went to reportedly 2.5 hours because Trump and Putin got along so well. Whoever on Trump's PR staff, communications office, thought that was the quote to feed to people, they should probably not be doing that job anymore. Eventually, Melania, who had been stuck in her hotel because of protesters there for the G-20 summit, Melania Trump was sent in to end the meeting, to which it just ran another hour. So, there's that. The meeting itself resulted in an agreement on a Syrian ceasefire and on forming a cybersecurity unit, which is, obviously ironic because Russia, I don't want to say Russia hacked because I hate that that's become the term that the left and being a Democrat, I include myself in there, that the left has latched onto. They did not hack our election, or at least there is no evidence public right now to say that they did so. They simply meddled in ways that maybe have been just as damaging. We still ended up with Trump as president, but more on that a little later. And it finally ended in a disagreement on whether or not Trump accepted Putin's denial of election meddling. The Russians, I want to say the same Russian who was pictured by Russian state television in the Oval Office with Trump, came out of the meeting saying, yes, Trump accepted Putin's denial, and we're moving on from here. Now, this White House, this administration being so great at their jobs, didn't respond for a little bit. Just let that quote kind of sink in for a while. Then finally came back and denied it. So we're in a he said, she said type situation with two of the biggest leaders of the world. So, exactly par for the course on what you thought would happen in a direct meeting between Trump and Putin. Even Republicans are criticizing this idea of a cybersecurity unit with a country that, they meddled in our election. People like Lindsey Graham have described it as not the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but pretty darn close, which pretty much counts for a damning conviction of the Trump administration from a Republican so far. Which, like I said, the meeting pretty much went as well as it possibly could have. On Saturday, in what I'm sure were extremely confusing and incoherent talks with China, in no small part due to Trump's, flip-flops on China's role against North Korea. First, thanking China for their support a couple months ago. Then, I think about a month ago, saying that they aren't helping enough. And then quite recently, in the past 2 or 3 weeks, completely writing them off as partners against North Korea. So I'm sure that those talks were very, shall we say, interesting. The meeting was especially important as Trump has cast China as the boogeyman for America. During his campaign, he made claims that they're ripping us off, that he's happy when they're unhappy. My problem with this is, yes, I'm sure in some areas China's ripping us off. I'm sure in some areas we're attempting or are taking advantage of China. Say these things behind closed doors. They're saying it about us behind closed doors. They're not saying it out in public. I get that your base wants to hear it and that they're the main of course your base is the main reason that you were elected. But this doesn't help your reputation abroad, and it doesn't help you conduct diplomacy anywhere. Nobody's going to respect someone that seems to just go off the cuff all the time. Like Joe Biden. He is prone to going off the cuff and saying some things that maybe he shouldn't say. That's part of the reason his presidential bid in 2008 tanked. But for the most part, he sticks to the script. He makes it seem very authentic. I think he is very authentic. Trump just kind of says these things off the cuff and doesn't seem to check himself at all. This had to be an incredibly awkward meeting for the Chinese because they know what's going on. Trump, I'm sure, was oblivious. Saying these things behind closed doors instead of saying them in public will make these meetings and potential diplomacy and negotiations down the road infinitely easier. And I don't know why nobody has tried to get that through his head yet. So who knows, but to wrap up this Trump and politically charged news, you see what I did there, about the G20. One day before the G20, Trump praised the West, saying things like, "Do we respect our citizens enough to protect our borders?" I wonder who he was targeting with that. He went against his isolationist tendencies for once, which I actually liked, committing $639 million to the United Nations to help those starving from famine and drought in Africa. So, at least some good came out of this. Another good thing that came out of this, he pledged $50 million to the World Bank's fund to help women entrepreneurs. Finally! How hard was that? That's a PR... Well, first of all, it's the right thing to do and it should be done, but that's a PR miracle for somebody like this. Somebody who is pretty much always fighting uphill, not in fake news, but in bad press for him because they really struggle to do things right. He also, on the downside, managed to put the United States in a club of one. We are, as of right now, the only country who attended the G20 to not sign an agreement that the Paris Climate Accord was irreversible. So,